Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a little while since we did it live. Happy Friday. One of four pregnancies ends in miscarriage, a statistic that's both staggering and deeply personal for so many. Yet, repeated miscarriages are rarely talked about openly, leaving countless people feeling isolated in their grief. Behind every number is a story of hope, loss, and resilience that deserves to be heard. And there's so much that often goes unsaid about emotions, the questions, and the search for answers. So creating a space for honest, compassionate dialogue can make all the differences. And that's why we're so glad to chat on IG Live today with Sarah Bérubé, also known as Sarah the Detox Coach. During this live, we're going to discuss the role of gut health and and hormones in healthy pregnancies, dealing with mental health while experiencing repeated miscarriages, tips to balance your hormones, and so much more. I saw Sarah. Hello, hi Sarah.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And for those who don't know you yet, could you share a little bit about your story and then like what had led you to start Sarah the Detox Coach?
For sure. I am a little nervous, so just bear with me here. It's funny because I go live all the time on my page, but for some reason, getting interviewed, it makes me so nervous. So just want to get that out there. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of my story because if I didn't, we would literally be here all day. It all goes back to 2020. So January 1st, I woke up engaged to the love of my life. I had just moved to Canada from the US, because I'm originally from the States. And we all know what happened in 2020. The world shut down. And our fairy tale wedding was put on hold because all of my friends and family were back in the States. The borders were closed. So we had to legally get married in a courthouse. So my fairy tale wedding was just put on hold. And so we decided to try to get pregnant. Um, at the time, the only advice that my doctors and OBGYN were giving me were just to, do a basic pelvic exam and just have fun. That was all of their advice. So from 2020 to 2022, we ended up having four miscarriages before my daughter came into the world. Um, so I went through all of that. In each of those losses, in between each of those losses, there was so much anger and frustration, there was devastation, but each of them taught me something more about functional medicine and the lack of education going on inside of traditional medicine as we know it. So after my third miscarriage, I hired a naturopath. She referred me to a private hormone clinic that I was paying out of pocket for. And that's where I started learning about things like how nutrition affects fertility, how gut health affects fertility, endocrine disruptors. That was the first time I ever heard about endocrine disruptors and how they affect our body and our gut health and our fertility. So I started making all of these changes after my third miscarriage into my daily routine, like cleaning up my products, shifting the type of workouts I was doing, eating to support my body, and then supplementing with the right supplements that were like bioavailable. So I still ended up having one more miscarriage after that. They prescribed me progesterone suppositories because they found that even though my doctor said my progesterone was low, that they did deeper testing, like a full picture and proper timing, that my progesterone was actually really low. So they prescribed me progesterone suppositories, and that is the only pregnancy that I've ever had stick, my miracle baby, rainbow baby. Um, and so I thought, everything was good. I healed. The worst of it is over. And then at 15 months postpartum, I had a fifth miscarriage. And that's the one that like completely broke me and shattered me because I was like more than angry because I was already experiencing postpartum anxiety really bad. So I got really angry at the system and I just started hitting the books. I started doing research. I started talking to two of my really close friends that are naturopaths and learning from them. So I do have to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I do not have any fancy certifications. I learned all of this as a mom who went through it all and just started asking deeper questions. So after all of that, I realized that if I'm going through this, I'm not getting the answers that I need from my doctors, that there are thousands of other women out there going through the same thing. They need answers too. So I just showed up on my Instagram one day and I started sharing my story. And so many people resonated with it. So I fell to my knees and I begged God for healing. I begged him for answers, that I made him a promise that if he led me to healing, not just my anxiety, but just like my overall like health, that I would bring other women with me and teach them what they need to know that I wish I knew before going through all of that. So that's how I came here.
Wow, that's incredible. And yeah, I feel like I can echo too that the traditional medical system, I also had a ton of miscarriages, and it's you don't get the answer. Like the most common answer that I have gotten is good luck next time. There was like nothing
Yep.
else. It's like
No.
good luck next time. But I'm like, that's not very satisfying and doesn't help.
Yeah, they literally told me at one point, just stress less. Okay, well, that's not helpful. So thanks.
That makes me stress more.
Right, exactly. Definitely.
Your name includes detox coach, but that your work goes way deeper. So could you share that what that really means to you and then how your mission has sort of evolved?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually get this question a lot. Um, Honestly, I made a shift a few months ago and I didn't put a ton of thought into it at first. It was just something that, I was Googling or using ChatGPT to figure out a name. I went through several names before, trying to find something that would make me stand out a little bit more. Um, but over time, I realized that my mission is more than just toxins. It's just everything that's interfering with my body's ability to heal, the stress, the inflammation, hormone imbalances, blood sugar, all the emotional trauma that I was feeling, like detoxing from all of it. So the word detox, I don't think of it as just like swapping out candles or changing my skincare. I think of it more as an entire process, um, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and just coming back to the way our bodies were literally designed to heal. Um, so detox can apply to all of that in a sense. So detox coach was just something that I found through research, but there's really no like coaching that I do. I don't charge for anything. It's just something that I honestly wish, like, this is the roadmap I wish I had before going through all my miscarriages. So yeah, there's
I
really
love it.
nothing to it.
I love it. I love it. But it's also a very like holistic view of helping people, not just, removing the toxins. And then we also often always, invite guests from all different fields to come to talk about health because unless you have the whole body system, the health to support the detox,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
can't really detox without, a proper functioning hormone system and also like a good gut health in order to support it. So I love it.
100%. Yes. So it's really like you said, a holistic overall approach to detoxing several steps of your body to support your body for fertility the way that God designed it. So yeah.
You had an amazing post that, discussed things that you wish you knew when dealing with repeated miscarriages. So, I'm gonna ask you some of these advices. So first, why is gut health so important?
Oh my gosh. So this is something that I get so geeked out about. So I will try to not ramble on this one, but I have become super passionate about gut health over the last year and a half since I started learning about the gut brain connection. Um, Gut health is literally one of the biggest things that I wish someone would explain to me years ago. I feel like it is like a trendy topic now. But I had no idea how deeply connected it was to fertility and miscarriage. No one ever mentioned the link between cortisol and progesterone. None of my doctors did. They never mentioned how inflammation and poor gut health or poor gut function could completely throw off your hormones. So, like throughout my research that I've done over the past year and a half, um, I've learned that like there's such a stigma that people think gut health is just about digestion and digesting food. But there's so much more that impact, like it literally impacts every major function in our entire body, like our hormone production, our immune system. 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. Our serotonin, our dopamine production, the inflammation in your body is directly related to what you're feeding your gut microbiome with. How poor gut function could, it literally just, it throws off everything. So in my case, I had all of the signs, but I didn't know any better back then. Like I checked all of the boxes, but if you see a doctor and you expect them to catch these things, right? But they're not. The traditional medicine that we have is not set up to prevent. They're trained to react after something already goes wrong. So all of the years that, in my 20s, I was drinking, I was eating processed foods, eating out, using all of the Bath and Body Works candles and fragrances. Like literally the job that I had for most of my adult life was Abercrombie and Fitch. And if you know Abercrombie, you know the scent Fierce. And like literally it was just in my brain at all times. And I just think back to all of that and how it damaged my gut microbiome, because everything that you put in and on and around your body matters to your gut health. And so for your gut, since it houses all of those major hormones, it can literally throw off all of the signaling that you need to support fertility, especially for me specifically. This was my root cause, was cortisol. This is what we found out through functional medicine. My naturopath doctor measured my cortisol levels over years and years. And we found that it was actually, my cortisol was sky high. And when your cortisol is sky high, it's going to rob your body of progesterone, which progesterone is what you need to sustain a pregnancy in the first 12 weeks. So that's why the only pregnancy that I had that actually stuck was because I was on progesterone suppositories, which is a synthetic blend of progesterone, but still I needed it because of all those years of damaging my gut microbiome and using endocrine disruptors and eating poorly and, just not taking care of myself. So, yeah, gut health is literally the key to every major function in your body.
So true. We're so glad you're educating your audience about endocrine disrupting chemicals. And then for those who are unaware, please explain what they are and where can you find them?
Yeah. So, endocrine disruptors, they are sneaky little things because we live in a world where everything around us is so incredibly toxic. They're everywhere. And the more I think about it, it just is so sickening to me. Once you realize how common they actually are. So these are chemicals that interfere with your body's natural hormones. They either can block them or mimic them and stop them from working the way that they're actually supposed to work. And that's obviously vitally important for fertility and your overall health, obviously. So they can mimic your hormones, block your hormones receptors, or disrupt how your hormones are made, stored, and broken down. So for women trying to conceive or even just regulate your cycle, that matters way more than what a traditional medicine is actually teaching us. So none of my doctors, like I said, none of them mentioned to me, not once during my miscarriages, about endocrine disruptors. It wasn't until I saw that private hormone clinic and they sent me the list of what endocrine disruptors are and why I should avoid them. But again, I didn't completely realize the full spectrum of this until after my 5th miscarriage, when I went back to the books and I really started diving into all of this. So disruptors can be found in everyday products that we are told are safe. Things like candles, we never think twice about, perfumes, lotions, dryer sheets, laundry detergent. I mean, things that we're using on a day-to-day basis, right? I would have never questioned my laundry detergent before I knew all of this. Plastic. So it literally makes me cringe when I see people storing their hot food in plastic storage containers because full of BPAs, water bottles, and receipts. Receipts, that one really blew my mind because I am a shopaholic. I touch receipts quite a bit. And then all the years that I worked in retail, I was handling receipts all day, every day. So looking back and it all makes sense now. But things like all of the cleaning products that we use, Lysol and all of that, full of harsh chemicals. So we think that, using certain brands or certain cleaning supplies that we are putting our health first by cleaning, but it's the chemicals that are inside of them that are actually disrupting our hormones. And then what a lot of women don't really think twice about: makeup, skincare, hair products, pads and tampons, huge amount of chemicals in those products, and we're using them every day. And those, I've done polls before. I've asked women, what's the hardest thing for you to give up? And it was their skincare. They don't even care about what's going on internally as long as they look pretty on the outside. I'm but that's going to affect you years down the road, and you're going to wish you would have made the changes now. So it's chemicals like phthalates, parabens, BPAs, triclosan. They all mess with your hormones, especially progesterone, estrogen, thyroid, and your ability to detox all of the hormones that you need to sustain pregnancy. So they're found everywhere. They're really gross. And I always say that if it touches your skin, goes in your mouth, or if it's in your home at some point or another, it's either supporting your hormones or it's working against them. So it's really important to start learning about that now and then start making some safe swaps as much as you possibly can without overwhelming yourself, because sometimes that process can be just as toxic as the chemical.
Yep. The stress, which is
Right.
the next topic I want to talk to you about.
Yep.
What role does stress play in miscarriage?
Okay, so this is a good one. So for me personally, and I can speak on behalf of several other women that do message me about this. Stress, people are oh, I'm not anxious. I don't have anxiety. The reality is that we live in a world that is so stressful. Our environment is so fast paced. We're stuck to our phones. We're literally glued on our phones 24/7. Our environment is so much more stressful than it used to be. And then there's things like going through miscarriage or going through infertility and how much trauma that puts on the body. That's stored stress. And you may not feel the physiological symptoms of having anxiety attacks or panic attacks, but that doesn't mean that your body doesn't signal that we're not safe. It's not safe to conceive right now or to hold a pregnancy. Your body is holding on to that. And that's where your cortisol levels fluctuate throughout the day. We all need cortisol. Cortisol is literally what keeps us alive. It wakes us up every single morning. We need cortisol. But what happens is when we go through things like miscarriage or any kind of trauma that we don't address at the root, that stress is going to be held in our body, and then cortisol takes over everything, every function in your body. Cortisol and progesterone are actually made from the same hormone, and I can't pronounce it. The prolongesteel is what they call it. But that's where cortisol will literally block progesterone from being able to be produced. So stress, whether you feel anxious or not, is directly affecting your ability to conceive and sustain a pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are some good ways to help counter stress throughout the day then?
Okay, so this is my favorite one. This is what I talk about most on my page is, and most of it's free, completely free. That's why I don't right now charge for any kind of services or anything, because I'm just trying to get awareness out there. Most of the things that you can do to regulate your stress is completely free. It starts the moment you wake up. Um, do not reach for your phone. And I am completely guilty of this because I'm a content creator. So that is the first thing that I do, because I co-sleep with my daughter, and like I'm just laying there with her while she sleeps. But you're supposed to wake up and immediately open a window or go outside, get fresh sunlight on your face. Sunlight is nature's medicine. It is so healing. But what it does, and I'll get to a little bit more detail, but what it does is it signals safety to your brain. It signals to your cortisol and your blood sugar to stabilize, that it's daylight out, and that won't spike your cortisol. So that's the first thing that you should do within the first 5 to 10 minutes of being awake. Now, if you're like me and you live in East Coast Canada or Alaska or somewhere where it's freezing cold most of the year, um, it doesn't matter if the sun's actually directly out. As long as it's signaling to your body that hey, it's daytime now. It's time to get started. It's trying to get our day going. That signals safety to your body. And then next, never have coffee on an empty stomach. And this was one of the hardest things for me, because I was addicted to Starbucks, and working in retail, and I was a sales rep for a long time. That's like the first thing you do. Like, we live in an environment where it's just go, go, go. You reach for that cup of coffee, and it becomes a habit that is extremely hard to break. Never have coffee on an empty stomach. That is immediately going to spike your cortisol levels. And then eat a high protein breakfast. So we're talking 25 to 30 grams of protein within the hour that you are waking. Because what you eat at the beginning of the day will set the tone for the rest of your day. It will stabilize your blood sugar and keep your cortisol levels from spiking. And then some tips that you can do. Grounding techniques really, really work. And what I mean by grounding, literally just going outside in nature and go barefoot. Like, be one with nature. Get sunlight, take daily walks. And then other things that you can do is focus on nutrition for gut health. I have an entire cookbook that I created that is fertility focused. Nutrition is the foundation. Proper supplementing to fill nutritional gaps, and then making safe swaps around the house little by little. Don't be like me and try to do it overnight, or else your husband will get very mad for spending a lot of money very quickly. Those are just some basic tips and tricks, but I do have a bunch of free guides offered on my website.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm like totally guilty of drinking coffee empty stomach. So guilty about that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are, because it becomes so natural, and once you get into that routine, it's really hard to break that routine of doing that.
So what kind of testing do you recommend for measuring like cortisol and balancing hormones?
Okay, so blood work will not show the full picture of cortisol, because your cortisol fluctuates so much throughout the day. So I always, always, always recommend doing a Dutch test. And they can be pretty costly. I have two naturopath friends that do virtual consults that are able to call those in globally. And I've linked them on my page too, because I talk about them quite a bit. But doing a Dutch test is extremely important to be able to get a full picture of what your cortisol, your overall hormones, your progesterone, and it'll give you a clear picture of like maybe some changes that you can start making in your diet, your like skincare products, all of that. Like, you can get a clear picture of what's going on in your gut microbiome and what you need to start making changes. So a Dutch test is probably the first thing that I would recommend having anyone start with. And then as far as miscarriage testing, I have an entire guide listed on my website about that too, that you can take to your doctor and ask them, I want this test, like a full thyroid panel, progesterone on day 21 of your cycle, and everybody's cycle is different. So that's really important that the doctors run it at the right time. And then obviously male factor fertility is extremely important. And I know a lot of people have been very concerned about that lately. They're like, oh, it's the man's fault most of the time. Um, but there is truth behind that. The way that the male is taking care of their body is extremely important. Also, like what products they're using, what are their stress levels look like? How are they eating? That's very important. So you want to ask for that testing as well on the male side of fertility.
Wow. I can echo on the Dutch test. While it's expensive, but I think people should also think about, if you're able to understand how your hormone work, where you can fix it, maybe you can fix it without going through multiple miscarriages, and then second is you might be able to avoid entire IVF process, which is gonna be costing like literally like
Absolutely,
thousands of
100%.
dollars.
I follow a doctor. He's based in Windsor, Canada, and he actually brought up like a striking statistic. Like he's a fertility doctor, and he said that 80% of the women that come through his door expecting IVF ended up not needing it by making these natural changes in their day to day. And like he's so frustrated that most modern doctors aren't talking about this because 80% of women who would have just naturally just gone to IVF because that's what their doctor told them to, didn't actually need it. Like it's things that could be solved by using natural remedies. So yeah, it's a little shocking.
Wow, thank you so much for what you do. Like, because I think people like really need this information.
I agree. It's really near and dear to my heart, obviously, with everything that I've been through. And I do feel like God called me to a mission. He will not cause pain without something new to be born. And I believe that is my journey. That is why I went through what I did, so that I can help other women navigate through this so they don't have to be alone and they don't have to feel, lonely and screaming and crying and in ER begging for answers. And they're not getting any. Well, I'm hoping it'll reach accounts where, they feel a sense of relief by having hope.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about healing, because that's also really important that, we're talking about balancing hormones, we're talking about dealing with stress now, like
Mhm.
when it comes to healing. So in your journey, your doctor kept saying your labs are normal. Like, how did you deal with the confusion, grief, and anger during this time?
Oof. It was truly soul crushing for me. Especially because when I was going through that, the world was shut down.
Mm.
I didn't have my best friends. Like I had nobody other than my husband here. Because I moved here for him. He's from this area. So hearing everything looked fine. And I need to note that I am an extremely stubborn person. I do not like being told the word no. Like I will fight tooth and nail to get answers out of people. And I just kept hitting a wall with these doctors. So I was crushed. And I was mostly angry, very, very angry. Um, Angry that I had to fight for the testing, angry that I was being dismissed by people that I was supposed to trust. Um, every time I brought up a concern, um, they were completely dismissive. Like I even remember after my fifth miscarriage, and they ran 3 months worth of testing and pathology to try to get me answers about the last miscarriage because I had to have emergency D&C for that one. And I had brought up some of the questions that my naturopath was, and she literally looked me in the face and went, "What did your naturopath just rub a crystal ball and see into the future?" I'm just like, oh wow, I cannot like
That's
it was,
crazy.
and that's
That's
where
disrespectful.
I realized that I'm done. I'm just going to focus on, you know, the healing the way that God intended. That was it. I'm done with traditional medicine. I can't handle this.
That was very, very disrespectful. Wow.
I agree. She was very dismissive to me seeing a naturopath. So that was really hard for me.
what morning routine did you adapt, to help balance your hormones?
Yeah, so I covered a little bit before. Um, but my morning routine consists of resetting my nervous system, like morning sunlight, daily walks, that kind of stuff. Eating within the 60 minutes of waking, high protein. And instead of coffee, I now take strain-specific probiotics that naturally regulate my cortisol. And that's been my daily routine, like having something, whether it's an herbal tea, a smoothie, a protein smoothie, or something where you have a routine every single day that you know you're going to wake up and you're going to do that consistently, and it creates healthier habits. So for me, that's what worked for me to start living a healthier, non-toxic life.
I love it. I still have three more questions. Do you have 5 more minutes that we can?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome,
Absolutely.
awesome. It's been a super interesting conversation, so I feel like we can probably talk for hours.
Yeah, see, when I get started on something, I'm the same way. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay, what are some ingredients that you avoid to maintain healthy hormone balance?
Ingredients that I avoid in like
Products
food
or
or products?
food?
Product?
Both.
Okay, okay. So once you get started learning on all of this stuff, it's it's actually overwhelming. It's so overwhelming because you go down rabbit holes. At least I do, especially like when I'm talking to my friends and I'm trying to teach them without like overwhelming them at the same time, because everything that I know I wish more people knew about, but some people just truthfully don't care. Um so that's why I do like to separate the products we use, that we put on our body, and then the food that we put in our body. I could go down rabbit holes of both, but for the ones that I bring into my home, a fragrance is the number one. That's the biggest no-no for me. Anything that if you flip it over an ingredient label and it has the word fragrance on it, I'm tossing it. That is not something that I allow into my house. Um, I've swapped for things like essential oils, like making sure they're seed to seal, they're pure, organic, and diffusing those, because it's actually a great sensory tool to use essential oils to reset your nervous system, to lower your cortisol, to heal your hormones. Essential oils is a huge sensory tool for that. So I really like essential oils instead of air fresheners, candles, anything like that. Parabens and phthalates, it's literally in everything, like soaps. It's parabens and phthalates, they're preservatives that mess with estrogen and progesterone. So those are known endocrine disruptors. You'll find them in things like personal care products, beauty products. Literally, if you're flipping over shampoo and conditioner, face cream, all of it. So you'll want to avoid that at all costs. That's like my number 2 on the list of avoid. Instead, I'm making safer swaps for things that have way less ingredients, that are either EWG certified, or something that I'm doing a lot of research on. Maybe a bunch of other influencers have tried it or mentioned it, so I'm going to personally test it out. Other ingredients, like BPAs, that's a known one for me. I mean, it's in cans, plastic, storage containers. There's so many things that are plastic that our food and water is stored in. So I have a rule of thumb: if anything of my food or water has to touch glass, or it has to be BPA free, like a carton of some sort. And then for foods, that's the whole thing. I could go down so many rabbit holes with food because that's something that I'm super passionate about. My own family like gets so annoyed by me because when I go to their house, I'll like open their pantry. I'm like, nope, you need to throw this away. Like stuff my mom's been using for years, and she's just like, oh well, you grew up on it and you're fine. I'm like, well, I mean, seed oils, artificial dyes and sugars, those are the main ones, but it basically, if you can't pronounce it, if it doesn't grow on a tree or you can't kill it, you shouldn't be eating it. Like it's literally just simple whole foods that you can grow or kill, and that's what you should stick to. But I've created an entire guide on what to avoid, the dirty dozen. So that's also available to my followers so that they can learn slowly how to make both product swaps and food swaps.
Wow. I feel like you have so many resources. Maybe like give us like an overview because I know we talked about a few pieces, but I feel like you have so much more. So let's talk a little bit what kind of support, like resources now you offer to help
Yeah,
women navigating this journey.
for sure. So like I said earlier, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist, I don't have any fancy certifications or any fancy letters in front of my name. Something in the fall that I do plan on taking some naturopath courses. I don't, at this point in time, I have a almost 3-year-old and I do want to plan to have another baby. So I don't plan on fully going back to school to get like a naturopath doctor's degree, but I am going to take some basic certifications just because I want to help more women. The resources that I've created are all available on my website, all of the brands that I use and I trust, including all of the non-toxic products that I personally use. And I have a lot of discount codes for them too, are all listed on my website. And I've created an entire Healing for Motherhood guide that details full spectrum from the very beginning of my miscarriages up until most recent, all of the ways that I learned to heal my body holistically. So I created that guide and I created a cookbook. Those are the two ones that I have for sale because obviously I can't do everything for free. I mean, I've got so many things that I want to do to be able to bring more awareness and more education to women, and it costs money. Like some of the courses that I am looking into are like $10,000. So it's like I can't do everything for free. Eventually, I will want to do some like one-on-one coaching. I just want to have some basic certifications before I do that. I am going to be taking a mental wellness course, which is all about the gut-brain axis through Dr. Sean Talbot. I absolutely love him. Some of my free guides are about non-toxic swaps, where to start as a complete beginner, what the cortisol progesterone miscarriage connection is all about, what is gut health, what is endocrine disruptors, how to naturally heal your nervous system from point A to point B, and basic things like that. It's all offered on my Instagram, on my website.
I love it. I love it. If someone's listening and feeling overwhelmed, what would you say to them who's in the thick of this right now?
Me too.
Oh, good.
I tell her, I see you, truly. I was you. Um, I know what it feels like to be in the absolute thick of it, grieving after loss or multiple losses, wondering why this is happening to me, wondering why my body feels so broken, wondering if I'll ever have hope or ever have a baby. Or maybe you do have a baby, but you desperately want another. I've been there. I've been on the bathroom floor, curled up in a ball. I've been screaming at the top of my lungs in an ER, literally crying out to God, begging for answers. Um, and, and if that's where you are right now, I just want you to know you are not broken. You are not crazy for thinking all of these things and wanting to know more. And you are definitely not alone. There are so many women navigating this, and I've built an entire community of women going through the same thing, and we are all supporting one another. I want you to know that this is not your fault. You didn't fail. You are not behind in any way. There are answers out there. There are tools out there. There's healing on the other side of all of this. Even if it doesn't look like what you expected, trust me, none of the things that I went through in the past 5 years turned out anything like I expected, from my wedding to having a baby. Like, I didn't get to be a bride. I didn't get to have a normal pregnancy without the endless anxiety. Like, I didn't get any of that. You don't have to figure out everything all at once. Just take one small step. Start where you are right now. Support your body. Make your body feel safe. And please just don't ever give up fighting. Don't ever stop fighting for the answers. And just keep going. So
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing not only all the tips, but also like very personal story, because I feel like we don't talk about it enough. So that's why a lot of women feel very isolated and then not getting the support. So thank you so much for what you do.
of course, I'm glad to do it. I'm glad that people are listening and hearing me. It's truly been so healing for me to be able to tell my story, and knowing that my story is helping other women. So thank you.
Please keep us posted with your, eventually the coaching certification and additional content, and so we can help promote.
Absolutely. I will love to share all of the things with you guys.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much again for
Thank
staying.
you.
Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.